Thank you.
Okay. Well, I'm reading Ultimate Truth, and I'm enjoying it. It's very nicely done, that book.
Good, good.
Yeah, it's evening reading. Um, so yeah, a lot of it is very because it's transcripts of all well, not exact, but it's based on what he said when he came to the U.S. Part of it is the ashram in India, but part of it is from the meetings he had here on the East Coast. And
Yeah.
I'm actually, my question is in there.
There you go.
Page 38.
Good,
I was wondering if it was going to make it into the book, and it did.
good, good.
I know. So the ego identified there.
What was the question?
Oh, it was something to do with increasing one's devotion.
Uh,
Um, and I think he said something like, well, you know, you have to keep, you don't have to keep reminding yourself that you are a woman, that you are, whatever. So you have to accept the reality of who you actually are. And so it's kind of flowed from there.
Hmm.
Because you don't have to keep saying I am, if you already know you are, if you already have the conviction. Yeah, but I try to spend time every day, as awareness rather than as the uh, the separate person. So I'm trying to expand that, it's all the whatever it is, time and attention that's given to the illusory world is diminishing, I guess you could say.
Good, good.
there's still that conviction that I'm a man.
Uh, you're playing the role of one, but you're not.
Right.
At least you won't go into the wrong bathroom.
Yeah. Not that I haven't done that, but
Well, one of the things that Sandy, that those posts that you make, like I read through those when I have a chance. And one of them was about, I think it's from Ultimate Truth, about the how if you ask your inner master, like for direction, it'll come to you. And I've been having that happen quite a bit, actually. It seems like when I begin meditation, I'm kind of like in a quandary a little bit, not knowing where to go with it. Or, like it takes a while to settle into it, but after a while, it seems like everything just comes right clear. And that's been very encouraging. Another thing that happened to me this week was, I mean, the extent to which we're being, where we're moving, I think, it's just completely out of everything. The whole idea of feeling good or feeling inspired or feeling anything, it's just getting moved out of that. I saw a little caption of Ramakant with talking about Paramatman. And he was talking to this Russian fellow, I think his name, I don't know, I think it's I'm not sure what his name is, Vladimir or something like that. But he was saying, like just basically it's just dismissing everything, every single thing, because it's all illusion, no matter what you think or feel or anything. And it's just not true, period. And that letting go of that, like sometimes when I, like when I'm meditating that, I think I'm getting there. And then, I walk outside, or get involved in some situation and whammo, I really just get sort of slapped in the face. I really realize, man, there's a lot of holding on going on here. And it could be extremely subtle, maybe the subtle ego or whatever, but it's just, it's there. And, it's good because it kind of like opens your eyes. It opens my eyes. But it's just, like, basically it's just, like I this morning when I was concluded my meditation, I grabbed Illusion versus Reality, which is Ranjit's book, the dialogues that he had. And he says, put zero on everything. You begin with yourself and just on your mind as well. And just, that really kind of like, was really kind of a confirmation, basically. Just put zero on absolutely every single thing. And the extent to which that takes us takes me at least, is just really, further and further just into nothing. So, but I'm aware that the struggle that goes on within me, and it's not like it's a real struggle. It's just that I get these real clear reminders that, like I'm not completely free in that sense, that, beyond it all, basically, totally beyond it, prior to beingness, you might say. I'm not living in that place 24/7, so just keep hammering away with the mantra, with the bhajans, with doing a little reading, but mainly the meditation. I find that that's becoming more and more kind of like the key. And it's, like not really trying to think of anything in particular in a meditation, basically just, being there. And when I sit there for a while, eventually it does take me deeper. And, I feel that there's, there's kind of like a clarity that comes, a realization. And, I don't know what it means to be finished with all this. But, so that's just some passing thoughts that I have to share with you. To be finished, totally. To be totally finished. That, like where you throw everything away. Knowledge, everything, all the books, whatever, is finished. And just basically disappear, become zero, totally.
And when Maharaj says you know yourself in a real sense, formlessness, then everything else is just discarded. And it's discarded without you needing to even really think about discarding it. It's just discarded. We had talked about before about if your mind was presenting ideas to you in black and white only, and all the images were in black and white, and yet you're seeing in color, you're going to discard all the images in black and white. So the same thing, everything that's manifesting in the form sense, is appearing on your spontaneous presence. And in reality, it's just in consciousness, so to speak. Everything that you're seeing, including this body, is in consciousness. And this consciousness is appearing on that absolute, which is, again, presence. All of the illusory world, everything that you're seeing, is appearing on this spontaneous presence. And you are actually not doing anything, seeing anything, experiencing anything, nothing. Because even this organ of experience is just kind of a telescope into the consciousness that you're not in. This consciousness appears to you the absolute, and inside this consciousness then is this world and this forms and all this kind of stuff. And then the consciousness is going around and providing information and kind of a storyline with all the different people. But that all is in the bubble of illusion, as Maharaj would say. Mm-hmm. You're not in the bubble of illusion. The bubble of illusion appears on your spontaneous presence. Prior to beingness, there's nothing. And that's why a lot of times when you're meditating and you're doing mantra, there'll be like a pop. And I'm sure everyone's experienced it as you're sitting there and you're mantra, and exploring the breath, and there's like a pop where it's just a void. It just literally pops. That's the best way to say it, because you're involved with doing the mantra, you're involved with listening to the mantra, and the mantra's running, but then all of a sudden it pops and you're outside of that involvement in some way. And that's kind of the breaking free of the bubble of illusion, because you go into that knowingness state before there was anything to know. And even these other things are just objects on that nothing. And yet you're witnessing this void of all things. So sitting there, and it's happened many times, meditation, you're sitting and your mantra, breathe in, breathe out with mantra, and then something pops, and it's just, the mantra's gone, everything's gone. It's just this stop, full stop. And I'm sure everyone's experienced this at least once in the meditation of mantra, because that's what the mantra is doing. It's just erasing all the illusory concepts until you get to that actual source of everything. And it's like stop, like in just pop. That's the best way to describe. Where even when you're sitting there concentrating on mantra, that's no longer concentrated on now, because it's full stop.
Sometimes the mantra just starts happening by itself with me. Like today, for instance, like we're moving to a different place here in Sedona, and moving boxes and that. It just clicked in. It's just happening like without my even being aware of it. I started to notice it happening. And there are those moments when I do, like when there is a sense of I should say, maybe witnessing that there's this whole meditation happening, the mantra and so forth. And having the sense it's really not true, it's part of the illusion,
Well, dropping into mantra instead of dropping into the thought process is beautiful, because you started to train the mind of, instead of paying attention to this flow of thoughts and creating a thinker, you just drop into mantra naturally when you're in the kind of, like you said, you're moving boxes and things, and maybe in the past you'd move boxes and think about, that would be your thinking time. And now instead, mantra is always running, and it comes to the foreground. Okay, now I'm moving boxes and mantra's running.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the beautiful time too, because then you're experiencing your body moving around without a thought process telling you that you're doing actions. It's just like you're just seeing yourself, but there's no interpretation of what you're doing. And mantra's running. And that was great in India, when all these different various things were going on, and there was concentration paid on mantra, and yet body was still moving. Body was still doing these things, but without any commentary. So then immediately you create that no experience, no experiencer, because you're just moving about, and mantra's running. So there's no commentary of I'm doing this, or this is happening, or I need to do this, or more of this. You're just concentrating on mantra. That's a really great thing. The more you can be in that kind of spontaneous action state, where the mind is not telling you, oh, look, you're doing this thing, or we need to do this thing, because mantra is running. So all actions are spontaneous actions, because there's no longer this sense of doership that's created before or after the act of doing.
That sounds like the definition of being in the zone, but they talk about with athletes. I mean,
Very much so, yeah.
A tennis player doesn't have time to sit there and think, well, I think I'll hit the ball over here.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And that will be experienced longer and longer and longer and longer periods of that, which, like you said, then suddenly mantra was just running, and mantra just came to the front because it's constantly there. Like Maharaj says, it's going to constantly run. If you are earnest about it in the beginning and you put forth the effort, then it will become effortless. It will just naturally be there. And every time, instead of initiating a thinker and a thinking process, instead mantra just comes to the front, and it's slowly, silently, permanently erasing all thoughts, all thinking, all kind of taking credit for these various things that you're observing this body form doing, that you used to say, oh, these are Andrew's doing this, Andrew's moving these boxes. But you don't need to have an Andrew to move the boxes. The boxes are moving through mantra.
That's right.
And whenever you catch yourself, like you said, oh, but then some pressure comes on or something and people are talking to me, that's when you can say, oh, look, I caught myself, and then back to just remaining with yourself, the self. Because you can quite easily communicate with all the people. And one good kind of trick, so to speak, is when you're with a bunch of people, it sort of visualize that the space around all of this is yourself, and these objects are in that space, and still carry on this conversation, but from the basis that all is occurring inside yourself. And that helps to get rid of individuality for not only yourself, but the ideas that you're implanting of the conceptual belief that these are also other individuals doing something individually outside of yourself. Instead, you notice that everything's occurring inside myself. On this spontaneous, formless presence, these forms are interacting in some way. But then also it's very light. It's no longer like a really intense thing, because then it becomes just like a dream. All these characters are just in the dream, including this character that I believe myself to be. And we're here in this moment. But you know, like, and I do this many times, of paying attention to the space and knowing that the space, even that, you're more subtle than the space because you can perceive space. But like Maharaj says, if at all you want to compare yourself to sky or space. And in a closed room where there's 4 or 5 people and you're talking to them, you can just sort of pay attention. Keep with your selfless self and pay attention to the space, and know that all the objects inside that space are within your selfless self, and nothing is occurring outside of yourself, including these apparent objects that you're seeing. But you're the seer in each one of these objects. It's you seeing and speaking, and one consciousness that's creating all of this inside, and you are truly the absolute of prior to beingness, prior to this I am, prior to this sense of presence which created this whole world. That's your state. So anything, Nisargadatta Maharaj talks about the consciousness, everything you see, everything you're doing, the entire lifespan is in the consciousness. And the consciousness is appearing to you. So everything, including this body form, all of this, and then the consciousness will leave, of course, and you'll return to your no-knowing absolute state. And Maharaj would say that everything is appearing on your spontaneous presence is the something in the nothing. But all that you see, all that you're doing, all that you believe, all of it is the prior to beingness, prior to the illusion arising. Your internet connection is unstable.
Yeah, we just got that.
I just saw this notice. Your internet connection is unstable.
I thought I was high or something.
But yeah, and you can remind yourself this so quickly. And mantra immediately puts you in the formless state because there's no I am somebody else being created. Instead, the attention is paid on mantra. Invisible listener is invited. Invisible listener sees that this object that's appearing on my spontaneous presence is not myself. I'm the formlessness. And I'm actually more subtle than the formlessness because I'm the knower of that sense of presence, the formless knowledge. And that's why Maharaj says, when you know yourself in a real sense, just this formlessly aware, just I without anything, then what is there to be concerned? Everything is very, very light. Even the serious stuff like your job or, when the clients come to you, you're still in doing something because you do your job, do your duties, but it's very light. There's no end of the world thing. And you're using body form, but there's no need to form an Andrew that's thinking this or trying to react to this or how this is happening. And you do what is in front of you without any concepts of expecting anything to happen because it's all illusion. Ultimately, nothing is.
It's nice to be in the stillness with no content.
Hmm.
If there is content arising, it doesn't disturb the stillness. It's just content.
Everything's appearing in your spontaneous presence, and everything that appears in your spontaneous presence is absolutely illusion. It needs to know nothing.
Don, do you still dream at night? Do you do dreams?
I'll have dreams occasionally, yeah.
I just wonder when that stops now, or if it does.
For myself, I mean, not all the time, but I do have occasionally dreams, yes.
I kind of like it when my dreams seem to tell me or show me reality. Then I can follow it. What the dream was telling me in my waking life. Kind of like, not that it's telling me anything specific, but just the feeling that was in the dream carries over or something.
Well, again, and knowing that the dream is kind of the, again, you go to sleep, boom, an entire world is created just from your presence, just instantaneously creates an entire dream world, populates it with dream people, and even you believe you're one of the characters in that dream. And knowing that the waking state is exactly the same for you, the formlessness, because the formlessness is just, boom, creating all of this that is being seen, and also believing that you're, for a time, one of the forms in this dream as a dream character. So it's exactly identical. You, the you that you are, the waking, the sleep, the deep sleep, all of these states are appearing on your spontaneous presence. And you're the continuum where all of these states are arising on.
Yeah, it's almost like what the dream is showing me is that what's going on, or the awareness that's in the dream is the same awareness that's there when I'm awake. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, presence is always. These are just different occurrences on your spontaneous presence. All illusion, because you're formless. And whether you're formless in creating a dream world or formless in creating a waking world, you are. And these are the things that are appearing on your spontaneous presence that are able to be seen, and therefore all the seen is illusion, but the seer is the reality. And the body, in both the dream body and the waking body, is just a telescope into the consciousness of the world that you're creating. Otherwise, you'd have no ability to see this in the dream state. If there wasn't an actual body, with this, an image being projected, then you wouldn't know and you wouldn't be able to see inside. But just like when you wake up from the dream, all of the form is completely eliminated in that dream, and boop, then you're believing, oh, okay, now I'm waking up. And the cool thing is, in order to have the sensation of waking up and the just I in the morning, there had to be something prior that would wake up.
Yeah.
Otherwise, who is waking state appearing to? The how? And then who is dream state appearing to? there's a continuum. That continuum is your selfless self.
I still haven't become quite aware, more fully aware of what that would be, or it's a. I just don't know.
Well, no, even like Maharaj all the time says, even intellectually speaking, for you to experience waking up, waking had to appear to you who were not awake at that time, correct? But you are awake, even though you're in the dream state, you're still awake in order to, quote, wake up. The idea, the spontaneous I am awake has to appear to you that are already, of course, awake. Otherwise, how? The dream state appears on your spontaneous presence. The waking state appears on your spontaneous presence. Birth and death appear on your spontaneous presence.
My mind will always, or usually, tend to register that there's a difference going on.
Well, see, again, mind can only project things. That's the coolest thing. If you grasp this is very excellent, because then mind is just thrown in the trash. Mind only knows the form world because mind came along with body. So everything that the mind presents to you will be in form about the form world, and you are formless. So when the mind, that's what we just talked about, a black and white world, if the mind says, it gives images of you having a hard time tomorrow when you wake up, it's going to be raining and your car is going to have a flat tire and all this, but it's all in black and white, then you see very clearly, no, it doesn't make sense because the world is in color. And the same thing, the world is in form that your mind is presenting, and you are formless. Mind doesn't know the formlessness because it appeared after. There's prior to beingness, there you are. Beingness arises, spirit clicked with the body, along with the body came mind, ego, intellect. So mind is only knowing what experiences this body form has been through, identified as, I had these experiences. So throw it away. And once you throw it away, then it's like, maybe it's presenting thoughts. You don't know because you're so used to not paying attention. Just like if you were seeing scenes and they were all in black and white and you're like, no, it's color. So it just doesn't make sense. I'm seeing in color. Truly everything in the form is illusion. Everything. And even the sense of presence is illusion because it appeared on the non-presence state. And you're the knower. You're the knower of the presence and the absence of the sense of presence. There's nothing. And this something, for a time, is perceived using an instrument called body in a world. And like Maharaj says, you measuring yourself in body form, and you then can measure and sense this sense of presence using body form in the form of otherness, because without the body form, you are all things, everything, so there's nothing to measure yourself of. When you know yourself in a real sense, you know whether this body is here or not, I am. And if the body falls, I am. There had to be, just like we talked about in waking up, there had to be something that clicked with the body to say, I. If there wasn't anything prior to body, then this that clicked, the you that you are, would not know yourself. You know yourself in a real sense using body form in the illusory world for a time. And once you know that this is the reality, then you're not clinging and holding on to body form. So when body form leaves, you're not like, oh my God, I'm dying and what's going to happen to me and all that. No. It's all illusion, and be done with it. And if mind sits there and says, oh, what about my son? I'll never get to see him grow up. The son is a body relation based on body. You are formlessness. You are your son, and the form that believes it's your son, and the form that believes it's the father. So you're the formlessness. Only the body has relations, and you're not body. And once you know yourself in a real sense, and you're just no, you're just not. It can't be. If you're going to be body, then you say you're all the bodies, and you're the plants, and you're the dogs, and the cats, and the squirrels, and the clouds, and everything, because it's all appearing on your spontaneous presence. The same as in a dream. If you were in a dream and you knew you were dreaming, you couldn't point out what was you, knowing that you're dreaming. Everything in the dream is you. Yeah, everything, because it's coming from you. There's nothing not you. Go ahead.
When Maharaj says no experience and no experiencer, you know, sometimes I wonder what that really means. Is, you know, like, is he like, basically it's a place to point the attention away from all experience and also the fact that me experiencing anything as an experiencer. But, you know, it's something that to be in that place where there's actually no experience and no experiencer, it's an, you know, it's a prior to being is state. So basically, it's just a place to point the attention, but it's because there's always going to be experiences happening. As long as there's a body there, there'll be experiences, you know, one way or another, you know, like you break your leg or, you know, whatever, you know, or you go to the grocery store and you got to go shopping and so forth and so forth, you know, all these different things.
Experiences.
Yeah.
It's a spontaneous happening because there's no you in it. And that's what we talked about with mantra, how you saw moving boxes. Yeah. There's a body moving boxes, but you don't take the touch of an experiencer moving boxes, and it's quickly forgotten. That's the thing too. To have an experience is an impression in mind that lasts. And instead it's just spontaneous happening. Channel surfing, basically. Involved in the moment, next moment, next moment. There's no carryover because there's no I am somebody else being created. It's just spontaneous action, spontaneous happenings. But, well, again, the razor's edge of reality where it's too thin for you.
So if there's no experience, there's no experience. In other words, basically just...
There's no experience, no experiencer, because there's no mind that's sitting there and referring to a past something and comparing the current something with that or projecting it into the future as something that's desired or needed. It's just spontaneous happenings. Again, just like Maharaj uses the example of the water. I'm thirsty. I pick up the water. I drink it. I put it down. There's no experience of drinking water. You could say that.
That's why I was confused at, actually. That was, you know, like that's the confusion that was in my mind, because when I would think, like, if I drank the water, that's an experience of drinking the water, because you quench your thirst or whatever. But basically, it's because it's done without the mind being involved in it.
Exactly. There's no I am somebody else drinking water. There's no me drinking water. Water is being drunk, I guess, what you would say. There is drinking of water, but there's no I in this drinking of water. It's not needed. And that's just a very small example, but everything is like this. Everything that you do is spontaneous actions. There's actions occurring, things happening, being done, but there's no doer. And immediately, if you try to sit there, even a very intense action, and you say, oh, I'm doing this, you fall back to the fact that the formlessness can't do anything. Even the dreamer in a dream can't do anything. This whole dream world, this whole waking world has appeared on your spontaneous presence. You can't be a doer. In dream, you can be doing so many things, and when you wake up, it's finished and done. But the character that was in the dream that you witnessed doing all these things wasn't you actually doing anything. The formlessness is not doing anything. All the forms are appearing and disappearing and all of this, and you're not doing anything.
So basically, we can say in talking about all this, we can say what is not rather than what is. As soon, I just know as soon as I start saying something is such and such, which my mind does all the time.
Yeah, then you have to have a mind that's sitting there and comparing and analyzing and labeling in order to form. Now, it's okay, like Maharaj says, in conversation, you have to use labels and things like this, but you don't have to cognize every little action that you're doing. You know what I mean? There's not a need for this. You don't have to think about this. Like they talk about, you don't have to think about breathing. Breathing is just happening, correct? I mean, sometimes you might pay attention to your breath, but if you had to pay attention and actually make yourself breathe for 24 hours, I don't think we'd last very long. So breathing is happening. Heart is beating. Am I making my heart beat? Am I beating my heart? Am I involved in my beating heart? No, heart is beating. They're speaking. See, this is now the more subtle. Heart is beating, lungs are filling with air, speaking and listening are happening. But there's no one doing it.
It's like my mind wants to. One of the things they talk about that Nisargadatta says you can get just to a changeless, see that there's changelessness or there's no change, and that's impossible for my mind to be wrapped around.
Well, the mind is appearing in that changelessness that you are, because you're able to witness the changes of mind, so therefore you must be the changeless behind this mind.
It's just the word change, even change doesn't apply to what's going, or what is, or I don't know, what's beyond.
And prior to beingness, no words were there. I think they talk about the prior to speech. And Maharaj has said, there's like 4 different things, I don't know exactly all of them, but there's like prior to the arising of a concept that then is being spoken, and then the air is being used to speak. You're prior to all of that. And when you remain there, then there's no need to like form logic and ideas. There's no logic, there's no anything, because all of that prior to beingness, there's nothing. So everything that, again, is occurring is in the nothing, appearing as something. So there's no need to cognize thoughts, ideas, and all this kind of stuff. It's just spontaneous happenings.
You can attempt to describe it, but it will always pale.
As soon as you describe it, then you're using intellect to label, and logic comes in. Mind, ego, intellect is right away, right there. I think Nisargadatta Maharaj talks about, like we just talked about, heart is beating, lungs are working, digestion is going. I'm not doing any of those things. And he talks about urinating is the same as any of your daily activities. Just the same. It's just happening. It's just going. There's a stream. It's finished. That's it. But there's no like saying, oh, that was a really good urination, or no, it's not so much pressure or anything. And the same kind of thing. Heart is beating. Lungs are filling with air. Blood is moving all around through all the blood vessels. There's in my ears, there's like ringing, and all of these are body-based things. And they're all happening without me doing them. And then when you know this, everything is happening without you doing anything, because you're the formlessness. The body is basically keeping itself going. It's an instrument of a mechanical thing, basically. That your presence is activating and moving about, but this is just the lump of the 5 elements that was in the mother's womb, that grew in the mother's womb, and all of these things grew, and it came out, and while you were in the mother's womb, you had no need for anything. When you came out, suddenly you thought, now I need to do things. I need to be doing things. And it's because other people were saying that you need to do this. Your mom said you need to do this and learn to eat and all this kind of stuff. But it's just spontaneous action, spontaneous happenings. It does not require an egoistic sense of self taking credit for spontaneous actions. And then the desire to do spontaneous actions creates a desire of this pleasurable action, or the fear that I didn't like that experience or whatever it was, but it's just spontaneous action occurring spontaneously.
And everything is like that.
All things, everything.
That's a good analogy. I think using the body, like the blood is running, there's breathing happening, digestion is happening, and there's no one doing it, and you just apply it to everything.
Everything.
Yeah.
It's the totality that's doing it. That's why there's no separation, because you can't get out of the totality.
Well, just like in a dream. When you dream at night and you see the people moving around, you might see cars, you see sun and moon and all these things. All of that's happening, just activity in your dream. And that's how powerful you are, because even in a dream, you can create an entire dream world and live in it. And the waking state is the same. And then when this body is no more, then consciousness no longer has this. I think, they talk about food, body, essence. This body is made up of food. You eat and you provide it with food and water, it survives. If you don't, then this body is no good anymore. And consciousness needs this body to be able to manifest itself. So once this body is gone, then everything is finished. But it never was. You never were any kind of separate Kathleen. It can't be. It's just like in a dream. If you were dreaming that we were having this conversation, you'd see Kathleen, you'd see John, you'd see Andrew and Keith and Sandra. You'd see all the people. But how are they speaking separately from themselves? Who was the speaker? You're dreaming about this very thing right here. Who's speaking? You can hear the speaking coming from Kathleen, but you, the dreamer, you may be dreaming yourself to be Andrew or John, but who is speaking for Kathleen?
The consciousness speaking to itself.
Exactly. In body forms are labeled with different labels, but it's the one consciousness speaking to itself. That's it. All because of the sensation that I exist. And I exist created all of this. But I exist appeared to the non-existent state. Just like we talked about waking up. In the morning, when you wake up, you had to be there to experience waking up. Well, this existence, there had to be something there, you, for this sense of existence to appear. Otherwise, to whom would this sense of existence appear?
That's the trick. The trick is to somehow get that clearly distinguished between what I am and what everything else is, I guess.
And mantra and remaining with your sense of once you know yourself in a real sense, that's it, game over.
But it's still, I have to say it's still deepening, or, it's me talking about it, but it's deepening somehow gradually. It keeps.
Yeah, that sense of presence, just like Maharaj says, go deep and deep and deep and deep inside your selfless self. And it is. And Nisargadatta Maharaj says, remain with the I am. I am is the sense of presence, the just I without anything. Remain there. Keep going deeper and deeper and deeper. And then as you remain deeper in through earnestness and meditation and such, then you go outside your house and you remain with your selfless self. You remain with the I am. You go deeper and deeper and deeper. Walking down the street, deeper, deeper, deeper. You'll start to do various things, but remaining with your selfless self. Remaining with your selfless self through mantra, remaining with the I am, the just I sense that in everything. And then you just remain there And we talked about before, there's an inward seeing that knows that all of the outward is being projected from this inward space. And it's just, okay, I remain here. And there is nothing. A whole truckload of gold can show up outside your house, but that doesn't make you leave yourself. Because yourself is formless, everything's formless. This gold has form, it's illusion. You might enjoy it while you're in form, but the reality is I'm not giving myself away for anything. I remain with myself with self. That's it.
Sounds so simple.
It is. That's what Maharaj all the time, he says, it's simple spirituality. Accept your selfless self. There's no God, no Brahman, no Atman, no Paramatman, no master. Everything came out of nothing. Everything dissolves back into nothing. In between, there appears to be something, this world. But that something is appearing in the nothing and will return to nothing. And you can say how Nisargadatta Maharaj explains it. The consciousness appeared to you the absolute. Everything is in consciousness. The consciousness will disappear, and still the absolute that you are will be. Oh,
Hey, John.
I just looked over. I was like, oh, it's 8:13.
I was waiting for the cue.
Yeah. Got it down pat, man.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay. Good night.
Very much.
See you next time.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you, John. Yep.